Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul, the infotainment business. Welcome to the Michael McLean Broken iPhone Walking Show. You can subscribe to these daily 6 a.m. broken iPhone videos at michaelmclean.coach. I am an ex-professional and amateur hockey coach, team owner, turned 8-figure entrepreneur. So it was announced a few days ago that 57-year young Mike Tyson is going to be hopping in the ring with Jake Paul, YouTube star Jake Paul, also a boxer, not a very good one, but just more proof that we now live in the entertainment age. As an entrepreneur, a small business owner like we are, you've got to get it in your mind every day when you sit down to write an email or write a blog post or shoot a video or market or advertise. You have to stop yourself and say, okay, the fact of the matter is that the great unwashed arses are spending over 8 hours a day scrolling on their iPhone now. 8 hours a day, okay? Just on the iPhone, just on their smartphone. That doesn't include their MacBook or their personal computer, doesn't include TV, doesn't include any other screens, iPads. 8 hours a day on their iPhone scrolling, over 8 hours now. That's a fact that came out last month, over 8 hours a day. And what are they doing on their phone? What are they doing on their screen? What are they doing on anti-social media? They're not working, they're not selling, they're not communicating. They're being entertained. They're watching videos, they're watching shows, they're listening to music, they're reading the fake news, they're consumed by Biden and Trump politics. And this is a perfect example, Mike Tyson versus Jake here. I say good on those guys. I mean, Tyson is a guy who's 57 years old. He's dead broke. He lost his fortune to sharks and parasites like Don King and all the hangers-on. And you have to tip your hat in terms of self-promotion to both men, but especially Jake Paul. Jake Paul is the type of guy, I have a soft spot for self-promoters. I have a soft spot for the P.T. Barnums of our time, men and women who make a name for themselves or build an audience, whatever it is, whatever a list, and they do it by gradually just building one day at a time. And they make themselves independently wealthy by building and growing audiences. An email list is an audience. A YouTube channel is an audience. So nobody's done a better job than Jake. So now here's an opportunity for them to entertain the masses. You don't have to be a boxing fan like me. Like I've been a fan of the sweet science since I was a little boy. I remember my dad would let me stay up late. This is before pay-per-view, and I remember watching, Ernie Shavers and Larry Holmes. I remember watching Muhammad Ali, his final fight against Larry Holmes. I remember attending the Sugar Ray Leonard, No Moss match at Olympic Stadium in Montreal. I remember some pay-per-views as I got older. My dad would pay for the telecasts. Tommy Hearns fights, Roberto Duran fights, Sugar Ray Leonard fights. I was fascinated. I was fascinated by the sweet science, no matter how corrupt that industry was. And I started to lose interest after Tyson started to decline. I watched the Buster Douglas fight. I watched it with my hockey team, and I'll never forget that commentary across the world. Tyson's down. I mean, Buster Douglas was what, a 40-1 underdog, and he knocked out a fat and unprepared Tyson. It all ends the same for most fighters. I mean, I remember Muhammad Ali couldn't get off his stool to answer the bell against Larry Holmes. And my dad turned to me and said, there'll come a day sooner than later where Larry Holmes can't answer the bell. And a handful of years later, Larry Holmes, like all great fighters, thinks they have one more left in them. And he signed up to fight Iron Mike Tyson, and Holmes couldn't get off his stool either. He was knocked down and knocked out in a handful of rounds. So I love boxing. I'm sorry that the sport is almost gone. Guys like Don King and the crooks and the people that come with it, it's just not something, you know. And Dana White's done an outstanding job with UFC and that part of the fight game, and they've turned that into the entertainment business. They've cornered that market. So this is a way for these two guys to make millions of dollars. It's a way for them to increase their profile even more if that's possible. But it's so funny listening to some of the sportscasters and the talking heads and the has-been athletes, and it's all envy and jealousy, right? They're like, oh, I would never watch that fight in July, and what is Netflix doing? And you know, Tyson's is past his prime. Well, no shit, he's past his prime. He's 30 years past his prime, and he's fighting a guy, you know, Jake is not a real fighter. Actually, my experience is that Paul is a decent fighter. He's smart enough that he's never going to fight somebody that's in their prime. He's always going to fight somebody. If he fights a name, he's going to fight somebody that's on the way down, smart. And secondly, if he can't fight somebody with a name, he's going to fight somebody that's a mediocre fighter. So Jake is an average fighter. He's an ordinary fighter, but he is a magnificent self-promoter. So he's going to make millions. Tyson's going to make millions, and they're going to entertain millions of people. But I love the hypocrites and the liars. Oh, I would never watch that. I would never watch that. That circus. I would never watch that Gong Show. Are you kidding me? If because it's on Netflix, I mean, if we get that in our house, if I'm at home that night in July when that's on, I'm going to turn that on and I'm going to watch that circus. I don't watch hardly any TV. I don't watch hardly any movies. I'll watch a documentary with my wife a couple nights a week. But other than that, I'm completely checked out of social media and TV and politics and the news cycle. But I'm like everybody else. I love to be entertained. And in my heart of hearts, as an old boxing fan, I would love for Tyson to somehow find a way to knock Jake out. Now, at 57 years old or whatever his age is, that's going to be hard to do. But man, would that ever be great entertainment. So the point with all this is, you know, as an entrepreneur and small business owner, you can't think like a fucking normie, okay? You can't think like 99% of the talking heads or the bought and paid for sports media in this case, you know, the Stephen A. Miss and the Charles Barkleys and the head nodders, bought and paid for. You got to think as a small business owner, as an entrepreneur, as a marketer, as a copywriter, as an email marketer, you've got to say to yourself, okay, how can I enter the conversation that's already occurring in my clients or my prospects or my audience's mind? That's Robert Collier 101. Well, the way to do that is to hijack celebrity, to hijack Hollywood, to hijack entertainment, and whatever the great unwashed arses are watching and consuming 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours, 11 hours a day on their screens. I mean, it's manufactured mental illness like never before. From the time a person opens their eyes to the time they finally pass out at 1:30 or 2 in the morning, they've microwaved their brain, they've microwaved their body, their soul, their emotions, their spirit for 16, 18 hours. And you gotta, instead of just being like, well, that's not right, as an entrepreneur, as a writer or a copywriter or as a founder or a CEO, you've got to be in the infotainment business. What do you think this fight is? This is the infotainment business. These guys are not only going to get paid millions of dollars for this fight, but it's also the increase in attention that they're going to get. This gives Tyson a shot. This gives Jake a shot. They're going to have all this free publicity for the next, 4 or 5 months. And they're going to have millions, tens of millions of eyeballs around the world on them. And good for them as entrepreneurs and self-promoters. But I mean, how could Tyson turn that down? How could Jake Paul turn that down? I mean, YouTube is one thing, but television, Netflix is another. That's the big league, that's the mainstream. But you as a small business owner, me as a small business owner and entrepreneur, I'm gonna use this in my videos like this. I'm gonna use it in my emails to entertain. I'm gonna write about it in my monthly newsletter. The link is below, Champions Not Chumps. I'm gonna use it in my telegrams, my faxes. I'm gonna use it to entertain my friends and clients. And we love this stuff. We love this stuff. You don't have to be a fight fan. You don't have to be a boxing fan. You don't even have to be a sports fan. Entertainment is entertainment. But keep in mind what business you're in when you sit down to write a script or write an email or write your newsletter, whatever you're doing to promote your business. You're not in the insurance business. You're not in the jewelry store business. You're not in the flooring business. You're not in the golf business. You're not in the car wash business. You're in the infotainment business. You provide solutions. That's your information. You solve problems for people. Your car's dirty, you solve that problem. You help people sleep better, that's an insurance problem. Whatever it is, you're a problem solver. That's the info part. Books and free reports and videos and emails that teach a little bit of stuff, tips and secrets that make people's lives better. And then the big part, the attainment, the entertainment. If you don't do it in an entertaining way, your book, your report, your newsletter, your video, your phone call, your text, it's just going to be ignored. You need to be two things. You need to be the most relevant thing in their email box or in their mailbox, and you need to show up in an entertaining way. If you drop the ball on either the info or the attainment, you're going to get exactly what you deserve, which is you're going to be ignored. The reason anytime that I've had trouble with my marketing, whether it's a postcard, a flyer, a video, an email, a radio ad, the only time that it didn't work and it cost me a small fortune is I was irrelevant. I was irrelevant in the eyes of my prospects. I didn't earn your attention. I didn't deserve your attention because I was probably stale, dull, or boring. And you did what you should do. You ignored me. You moved on to something that was infotaining. So I always keep that in mind when I write every day. I stop myself when I'm writing an article or ready to shoot a video, and I always ask myself, is this infotaining? Am I in the infotainment business? And if I'm not, I start again, I scratch it, and I'll shoot the video again, or I'll do a do-over on the email. But no different than Tyson, no different than Paul, is we're all in the infotainment business. And even if you don't love self-promotion like I do, if you don't love the marketing, the self-promotion, the influence, the persuasion tactics of the Donald Trumps and the Richard Bransons and the Dana Whites and the Elon Musks and the Henry Fords and the Ronald Reagans and the Winston Churchills and the General Pattons of the world, at least study them. At least study them. You know their names, past and present, because they were all self-promoters, they were all marketers, they were all advertisers, and every one of those legends is in the infotainment business. They're part of everybody's 8 hours on their phone. They reach out and they reach out and grab millions of people by the throat. You know, all that Tyson and Paul are doing is they're just taking the Gary Halbert, gun to your head principle. They're putting on an event, they're putting on a circus that's going to reach out and grab millions, tens of millions of people and hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. And they're going to do it by putting on a circus. They're going to do it by reaching out and grabbing people by the throat and pulling them in. I cannot not watch. And that's the way you want your emails to arrive. That's the way you want your newsletter to arrive in the mailbox. That's what your website should do, is people cannot not read it, cannot not get sucked into it. You need to be a welcome guest, not an annoying pest. And if people are saying, well, I would never read a print newsletter, and I would never read a daily email, and I would never watch a 40-minute video, they're just liars. They're just lying. Because it's just like the tens of millions of people who are not going to watch this fight, who are not going to subscribe to Netflix if they don't have it. Nobody's going to watch it. It's not worthwhile. It's too much of a circus. Neither of these guys are serious fighters. And you know what? It's going to break all kinds of records. It's not going to break Super Bowl records, but it's going to break its own kind of records. And people are going to stop for an hour, 2 hours, and they're going to watch this. Why? Because it's the most entertaining thing that's going to be happening that specific night in July. Infotainment. You're in the infotainment business. There's one more day for you to subscribe to my newsletter. The link's below. My print newsletter, my world-building newsletter. It's a dog's breakfast this month. I talk about a lot of things, including Tyson, including how to double your income by slashing your hours, whole bunch of stories. And like I said, my newsletter, it's like $3.45 a day. If that's too much for you to invest in your marketing, your money, your marriage, your body, your children, your mental health, your physical health, your spiritual health, you got problems that I can't solve. But if you're still interested, there's still time. The link below, Michael McLean print newsletter in your mailbox. Plus, I'll send you one of these Be Relentless black t-shirts for free this month if you subscribe. BadAssLetter.com. Champions, not chumps. Remember, you're not in the jewelry business, you're not in the insurance business, you're not in the construction business, you're not in the restaurant business, you're not in the flooring business, you're not in the car wash business, you're in the infotainment business. 2 words that changed my life, 2 words that will change yours. Be relentless.